Welcome to episode 6 of the Unlock podcast. My guest this week is Tyler Calisthenics. He was one of the first accounts I actually started following when I started my journey. And he has a really positive mindset and really interesting perspective. In this episode, I did things a little bit differently. We recorded our standard podcast, and then Tyler and I proceeded to have a really interesting conversation where I got a little bit deeper, actually shared a little bit more of my story. And I really want you guys to listen to that discussion. So the beginning of this podcast, you'll be kind of thrust into the middle of a discussion that we were having, and then it will proceed into the standard episode where we dive into Tyler's background in calisthenics and really go deeper on his journey. But the discussion beforehand is around 30 minutes long, and I really think it's worth listening to in this episode. And for others who may not know, this weekend, Friday morning, actually, I received a suspension from Instagram across my main calisthenics account on Instagram and the Unlock Podcast Instagram account. And then on Saturday afternoon, I received a total ban across my private accounts, all of my accounts, total ban on Instagram. And I am 100% certain that this ban is a mistake. But as of right now, the ban is permanent, and I am doing everything I can to recover the account. But Meta and Instagram make it very difficult to get support. And that is something that I'm dealing with right now. So that is a subject that does come up in the podcast. So I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. I really hope that you can gain something from this discussion. Every week, I'm uploading a new episode with a new guest, trying every week. Sometimes it's a little bit tough. So if I miss a week here or there, please forgive me. But the idea is to bring on a new guest every week to discuss their journey in calisthenics and a variety of other topics in calisthenics. Without further ado, I'm going to take you right into a very interesting conversation I was having with Tyler.
And when I'm in my 30s, 40s, that I shouldn't feel like I'm missing out when my friends are at the bar, when my friends are at the party. If I'm dubbing that girl, I shouldn't feel like I'm missing out because I'm really setting myself up to enjoy the future. It's kind of a small, I wouldn't even say it's a loss, because if you enjoy what you're doing, if you enjoy, making content for calisthenics, whatever it may be, you can work all day long and you won't feel like you wasted the day. I mean, sure, we're not going to reap the rewards right away, especially with there's a big luck component to social media. And so just recently I started blowing up, but I don't know exactly when I'll start to, reap the reward from all the content I'm doing. I think the biggest thing in this content creation game, entrepreneurship game, I mean, I don't like using the word delusion, but you need to have such self-belief and such faith in yourself and what you're trying to do that in a way you're kind of delusional. Other people around you are going to think you're obsessed. They're like, oh, you never hang out. But you need to do what it takes to get what you want in the future, even if you don't see what you're getting in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hear businessmen and like established people that the main way they think is in like decades. But that's just such a different, mindset from what we have today. We're all thinking about the now because we're creatures of the present. So
Yeah.
you'll build your Instagram up for, like me. I've been building my Instagram up since 2019, 2020. And I don't make that much money from it, but I don't let that stop me going because I see the future vision.
Yeah, I've been so obsessed with, and I almost feel like maybe I should get a therapist, because I've been so obsessed with this one thought for so long that I can actually, it's subconscious, but it's also, I can bring it into conscious thought, which is like, I am so overly obsessed. I have this obsessive thought that I'm constantly wasting my time. Constantly. I can't get rid of this idea that everything that I do is a waste of my precious time. while I'm young. And so I literally devote everything that I try to do. Like, I try to not have any wasted time. And that doesn't mean that like I don't enjoy myself. I watched a movie last night. It's not like that. It's just that
You feel like when you're watching that movie, you're wasting time? Or are you getting at that when you're actually working and doing what you plan to do, you feel like even that's a waste of time?
everything that you do, every moment of time is an opportunity cost, meaning you can do what you're doing in this moment, or you can choose to do something else. And so I always have a constant thought of, am I using this moment to its fullest potential? Right? Are we
Am I being as
doing
optimal as possible?
in terms of time? Yeah, like exactly. It's like I know I'm young, like I'm in my best years right now. So when I'm walking down the street to go to dinner by myself and eat by myself, I'm thinking, why am I going by myself? Why do I not have a girlfriend I'm going with? There's always a glass half empty approach of like, what could be better in this moment? Why am I not um you know, like that's what I'm getting at is like with this Instagram thing, it wasn't just like Instagram. It was like I was literally treating it like a business, and it was like everything that I was pouring my time into, building something up, building a community. And so when I got that kind of taken away, I was kind of like, oh wow, like now, like without that, like I just spent 6 to 8 months on something that just didn't even matter now, right? So like that was all just kind of like in a sense
For
like
nothing.
wasted time for nothing. Yeah. I mean, that's what my mind wants me to think, right? Like obviously I gained experience. I have my calisthenics skills. No one can take that away from me. So like I'm very happy about that. But um but to some extent I'm like, wow, like I look around, I live in the marina. There's a lot of young people here. They're all on a Saturday night walking around in groups. I'm like, man, I'm not in any of these groups. Like I'm just here by myself. Like without this Instagram thing, like I had friends on there, contacts I can't reach now. Like what I was like, it's like a what's going on thing. I'm like,
It's like,
wow, like
what good is this
maybe
doing
with
for me? It seems like
yeah,
it's only
maybe without
bad.
calisthenics, like I'm nothing basically without that because like I'm starting completely from scratch. If this is taken away from me, then I'm just like I'm literally just by myself. And um because of how much time that I devote to it. And so I
Well, no,
still
I
really
see.
love it, but part of it was just sharing it with others and sharing my journey and having other people that I could relate to. And like those were my friends. Like that was taking the place of like going out and being, in friend groups and things. And I just have been so obsessed with optimizing my life that I'm like you. I don't go out and get shit faced at Friday, Saturday night, like out at the bars. Cause like that's something that everyone here has in common is that they go do that. It's just a way of life. But I'm like, no, I want to be on that like health wave and like I want longevity. I want to be fit and active and doing things that are going to make me feel like I'm waking up energized. Like, so I've told my whole story of like when all this changed because I was in my 20s and in college I was drinking a lot. I was your typical kind of college guy that went to the gym and thought they were making healthy habits but would, totally not make
Were you
healthy
the
habits.
typical finance guy, Wall Street guy?
Well, at that point I didn't know if I wanted to do finance. That was just when I was had my passion for finance was starting to blossom, but I didn't end up working in finance until after I graduated, obviously. But in college, I would go to a lot of frat parties, and someone just texted me right now that oh, your account's got banned. I'm so sorry. um, I would go to a lot of parties and I would get messed up and I would, link with girls I didn't know, and like I would do all that stuff. Um, but literally I graduated and went from Boston back to the Bay Area, and my none of my friends were really around or wanted to do any of that stuff. I lived a very trying to fit in, trying to be social, and I lived in just an area outside of San Francisco that just does not have many young people in it back in my
No.
hometown, and so I was very lonely, but was still living that party lifestyle and trying to do stuff like that. It was only until the beginning of this year that I literally woke up um, in a hotel room in Las Vegas on January 3rd after a series of bad habits on New Year's weekend. And I woke up after like 3 hours of sleep, people I barely knew, like just, disaster. And so I had this overwhelming sense of just regret. And then that's when everything changed because I said, no, like I'm going to commit to not drinking for the rest of the month. And I did. I did it,
Wait,
and
wait, let's go back to, because I feel like you went over a huge part. You said one night you felt an overwhelming sense of regret, and then you changed everything. People feel regret all the time, but that doesn't lead them to take a huge, huge change, move over here, pursue a completely different path. So go back into that. What do you mean you felt regret? Regret over what?
this is the key because it's like it's about changing your habits. And so I was existing in a lifestyle of habits that I had convinced myself weren't that bad. And so when I woke up that morning in a hotel room after 3 hours of sleep, needing to check out from the Aria Hotel in Las Vegas, and I felt like total crap. And I told one of the guys that I literally just met that weekend, and everyone else left, and we're headed to the buffet at the MGM Grand or whatever. We had some voucher, and I told him I'm not going to drink for the rest of the month. That's it. I'm done. Like I'm doing dry January, and I'm committing to it right now. And so that was what allowed me to actually change things because I committed to something that when I personally, a commitment means something to me. So other people might not work this way. I don't know how it works in other people's minds. But because I said, I'm going to do this, it all of a sudden became more important to me and my integrity to show that I could actually do that and follow through and have the discipline to do it than to just like be like, oh no, like that promise to myself, like just throw that away at a moment's notice and just like, next time I have the opportunity to drink, don't drink. And so next time I did have the opportunity to drink, I remember I was going to a movie with my dad. And ordinarily I knew in that moment that I would have ordered something to drink. And I said no. And so once I stitched together just literally like one or two small victories to set me on that path, right? This is like January 4th or 5th. I got to make it like a whole nother month. And some people out there might be thinking like, gosh, how hard can it be to not drink for 1 month? But when it's really part of your lifestyle, and it's socially acceptable and you're in an environment where other people are doing it, right? You got to make it a month to be in those environments, like at work where other people are drinking, right? And to have it like almost like thrown in your face and like to say
Come
no,
on, just one drink.
Right. But it's
The
like,
peer
no, I was
pressure.
really gonna like no exceptions, no drinking for the rest of the month. And so what for me changes behavior is if you can just that second time you're presented, just if you can make it stitch two wins together, all of a sudden you have a streak. And here's the thing about your mind. It's way easier to keep a streak going and to keep the status quo going than to ask it to change. And so that's why when you make the first change is going to be the hardest part. But if you can just then stitch together another victory, now all of a sudden your mind it's stable, and then you're all of a sudden it's just status quo. And so it became easier because that's what I was going to do. But the not drinking wasn't even really the biggest change, because in January of 2025 when I did that, all of a sudden I wasn't drinking. Okay, now on Friday night, what am I going to do? It's a spiral effect of behavior change because now I can't go to the bars and drink. I had a couple nights in that month where I did go to the bars and just didn't drink. I didn't drink, but I went there anyway, and it wasn't that fun. So I went home, and I went home early, and I got to sleep earlier. And oh wow, now on Saturday, which should be my best lifting day, I don't have to go to work. It's I wake up earlier. I wake up with more energy. I'm not hungover. Oh wow, my lifts are better. Oh, I'm getting better gains. Oh, now I'm going to really lean into this and I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to optimize because now I'm really locking in. And so literally from January 2025 to February or March later, I got ridiculously jacked and shredded, totally locked in my mindset, and started calisthenics and got dialed on that all in the span of like 2 months because of how I changed my behavior just from one commitment, spiral affected into literally changing my life.
Let's
So
go. Can we go back to the commitment? Because I'm listening to a book. It's very popular. It's called Atomic Habits. It's all about changing your habits. And you place a lot of emphasis on, stacking wins and changing your habits to change who you are. But if you have in your mind the identity of, oh, I'm a person that, I love going to the bars, I'm a drinker, and you stop drinking for, let's say, 3 days in a row, when you're out with your boys again, that identity you have of yourself is gonna conflict with the habits and the goals you set for yourself. Yeah, you want to stop drinking, but I feel like something happened even bigger on that one day. Like, you must have had like an identity shift. Like, all of a sudden, like, you decided to really commit to it. Like, for some reason you decided, like, I'm no longer a person that drinks anymore. I'm no longer, I think it comes back to like waste. I feel like you realized you were like wasting all your time, and you're like, I'm the type of person where I can no longer waste my time, and I can't waste any time. I gotta do everything as optimal as possible. And I'm the same way. I feel like I can always improve and do more. And you're the same way. But I feel like, just like in life, we can take anything to extremes. I'm sure we can always do things better. But as long as we're striving to do things better, that's what counts. I feel like you're you're being so tough on yourself that you don't realize you've improved. Like, you're a whole different person, it sounds like to me. You're a whole different person. Like, I wouldn't have thought you're a person. You don't seem like a person that drinks and does all this.
Yeah, I mean, I had a drink on February 1st or 2nd or whatever it was. Like, yeah, right? Like when I made it through the month, that I'm not like a, overly restrictive. Like like I said, I watched a movie. Like I'm a regular dude. You know what I mean? Um, but I think, just to answer your actual question, like, I never thought of myself as a person that goes out and drinks. I go out and see what's going out here in the marina. I don't identify with any of these people. I really don't. And so that's why I almost feel like that's what allowed me to just, I used to have, the one thing I didn't frame it as, which is really the truth, was I had a tremendous sense of FOMO, right?
FOMO, fear of
So,
missing out.
like, yeah, so like on Friday, Saturday nights, I would feel like I was missing out if I didn't go out and drink and participate in that. I was like, "Oh man, I gotta go out. I gotta go out with the guys. I gotta go chase girls. I gotta do this and do that." But I feel like at a certain point, I had had enough of that lifestyle. I mean, another big thing that changed was I moved here to San Francisco. So I moved from Burlingame to San Francisco. That changed everything because,
Mm.
uh, Burlingame, there's no young people. Here, there's a bunch of young people. And I thought that when I moved here, I was going to be super social and I was going to, right? But it just got wrapped up in all these other changes that I was making in my life. And I realized, hey, there are more opportunities to be social. I'd rather go to bed early on Friday night and miss out on all the drinking and partying, but then wake up early on Saturday and I can go to the run club that starts at 8 a.m. with a lot of people. So like that's a healthier way to be social. And
With the right type of crowd too, the right type of people.
right,
Because
the people
you
that I want to
identify with
actually.
these people.
Right, but yeah, and on Friday, Saturday nights, you go out and like literally everybody's just drunk. Like I don't even want to talk with these people. Like it feels to me like it's sucking my energy. Like I have to put on a face and be like, and like laugh at people's dumb jokes, and like I just don't want to spend time on stuff that I'm not truly bought into. And so like that's why it's just like I don't want to waste my time, and my time is too valuable. So I just want to optimize my life in the right way. But also calisthenics, like think about it. Yes, it's a huge time commitment, everything. But learning human flag, like learning some of this stuff, like it makes it for the first time is giving me confidence and like making me feel like, and this is gonna sound so cringy and like I'm such a loser, but like it does. It makes me feel special. It makes me feel like I'm a superhuman. It makes me feel like I'm doing something in life that's so out of the ordinary in a positive way, because the hordes are going out and getting blasted and shit-faced at the bars. None of these people have the discipline that it takes to actually like uh, and I don't want to
Well, they're
overly
not using
generalize.
it.
A
They're
lot of these
not they're
people
not
have important lives.
practicing the discipline.
but they're not practicing the discipline. And it's like, it upsets me to see. It's like, how many of these people have so much potential but are just wasting it? And I'm almost envious of like how they can just have that peace of mind to not care that they're wasting their time. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm jealous of, is like, I want to just get out of my own head about it, because like, I just want to like escape this thought of like perpetual, like, I need to be doing better. I need to be optimizing. I need to be not wasting my time. Like every, every moment I'm like, I'm always restless. Like I need to be doing the next thing or the next thing. And so this is part of the reason I don't have friends, is I don't like to compromise on my time. I'm too dedicated
Big
to
one for
my
me.
mission. I can't, oh, you want to go play pickleball? That sounds fun. But like, I got a business to run here. I'm trying to build this so I can break free from my corporate job. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm on this
Wait, one second,
constant
one second.
grind where it's like,
Someone knocking? I'm sorry. I heard stuff moving next door. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. You're
Um,
good. But anyway, I get on a roll. I'm like, dang.
no. That's what you need. You're talking from the soul, and I can relate to that because when I was working at Equinox, I'm focused fully on my business and my social media at the same time. So working there for about 9 months, I honestly think I reached my prime in terms of focus, dedication, and commitment to my business. I wasn't hanging out that much. I had the same feelings as you. Like whenever I hang out, it's like I'm wasting time. Like I have to be up at 6 a.m. tomorrow so I can work out and then lock in for all my business. And it feels like if I'm hanging out, time is wasted. And I do think I think a lot of people, it's so hard to take this path because in the Bible, not to get too religious, but it says there's a wide and open road that the majority of people are going to take. And so I just look at that as the path of least resistance. It is the
Right.
easiest thing to do to take a corporate job. There's no risk. Then you get out of work. What is everyone doing? The easiest thing. They're going to bars. They're taking these substances that
Exactly.
kind of just blocks everything. And so it's kind of like you enter into ignorance is bliss. Then you go back into work and it's like this rhythm. But then you have the opposite path, the path of the cramped and narrow road that has a bunch of obstacles. It's the path of most resistance. And going on that path, I can understand why you feel like you need to do everything right because fear of missing out. I got to build this business now. I'm young. I have all these bills, all these stresses. And so you kind of feel like you have to do everything 100% optimal so you can set yourself up for success. And the only thing one of the things that helps me keep that mindset in perspective is two things. One of them is something that not everyone believes with is that God is guiding me towards he's giving me these dreams. Something has given me these ambitions and everything. So I feel like I'm going towards that path. And the other thing that helps me try to, not be too hard on myself is the fact that, you know, you have people like who who uh who's that basketball player that died in a helicopter crash?
Kobe. Kobe Bryant.
Kobe. Kobe, tragedy. He was the best basketball player. He had an insane tragedy to him, and he had 100% the same mindset too. But I'm sure that when he was, spending time with his kids, he didn't feel that way. Maybe he did, but what I'm trying to get at is that life is not guaranteed. We can put all this work into our craft up until we're 30 because our business can start to blossom. But then, and like I'm not bringing negative energy into my life, but the next day is never unexpected. So we need to try to learn to appreciate, you know, other things like family, hanging out in moderation. Though it's okay to spend. Yeah, at least what I do, I probably spend 80 to 90% of my time on school, my family, my business, and then I try to enjoy that 10% because I don't know if my best friend is gonna be here tomorrow. I don't know if my mom is still gonna be healthy and still around, so I have to find some way to enjoy, what I have. But then on the contrary, you can feel like, "Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to 40, 50, 60, so I gotta work even harder." It's kind of like that it's a constant struggle for me, like the whole yin and yang, there's a whole duality to everything where, we wanna be 100% locked in, but we kinda have to somehow find a way to, be on the opposite end and turn off. Because if we just go, fully 100% into the whole work and optimal and business, I feel like, we're creatures of habit. Eventually, that's all we're going to want to do. And then we're never going to want to hang out because it's no longer a part of our identity. It's all work, work, work. And you kind of just like turn to like a robot. You're just straight on businessman. You don't care about family, socializing, or anything. So it's kind of it's, I'm not the enlightened one or anything. I still have we got to learn how to have like the duality of life to where we can be
Right.
locked in and at the same time we can enjoy not being locked in.
I literally just want friends that have similar interests to me and won't pressure me to do things that are just socially acceptable, but I don't accept in my lifestyle. And it's so hard to find those people that actually like really driven, like around here. It just every
It's the
social
minority. It's the
opportunity is
1% of
is
people.
caught up in negative habits and things that I don't really wanna be a part of, and so, like, it's hard to actually hang out with people without feeling like I'm not using my time in the most effective way, because I only wanna hang out with people that I feel like are gonna be, like, long term relationships with me, and so the second I get in a conversation with someone where I'm like I can just tell, like, we're not, like, compatible, you know what I mean? Like, as friends or in any way like that. I wanna get out of that conversation as quickly as possible because it's
It's
like,
like, oh, it's a waste
I
of
don't
time. It's like
it's
this
a
isn't
waste of
going
time
anywhere.
on both ends because 'cause I'm just not gonna be hanging out with you. So, like, why let's not waste our time. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's been very, like, perspective changing to have as somebody who's so bent out of shape about constantly using their time in the right way and not, you know, uh, yeah, like using my young years wisely, to have just spent the last 8 months building something that was an opportunity cost. If I had not started this account, I could have still started calisthenics, but don't underestimate the amount of time it takes to manage a social media account, personal brand, all the content, and if I could have all that time back, what could I have used that on? I could have gone out and found friends I really appreciated. I could have spent more of my nights not making content, but, going out and doing whatever. And so those are moments I'm never going to get back. And so if that's actually really just taken away from me, like it's kind of ironic that someone's so caught up about, his time, just wasted so much of it. And so those are the thoughts I've been dealing with over, just recently. Like, I mean, this only happened a couple days ago, right? So I still think it's very fresh, but um, yeah, I mean, I almost look at my Instagram account as like a culmination, a mood board, a passion project, yeah, like an artistic culmination of my work,
Mhm. That's
and it
one
was
of
just lit
the
on fire.
that's one of the downsides of social media is that your page, everything you put into it is essentially not yours. And so for the longest time, what I've been wanting to do is, I mean, it feels like it's still another poison, it's pick your own poison. But you have communities like you have apps, I'm sure you heard of them like School, WAP, and it's essentially about trying to take your audience, your following, your community, and trying to make it your own. But then again, I think
Yeah,
about it like
like
that. Those
Discord or
aren't
something.
our apps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still like, but yeah, man.
Yeah, but
I see what you're going through, man.
it's a good idea to do that because I do think being like so platform dependent is not a good idea.
Yeah, you just
Um,
boom, you're gone.
yeah, like boom, I'm gone. And yeah, I'm still hopeful that I'm actually gonna get the account back, so I'm talking as if it's like doomsday, but even though I'm permanently disabled with no support, no recourse, this has so clearly been a mistake, and so I just can't help but think that it's actually gonna get resolved. But, anyway, man, yeah, I mean, we could talk all day, man. I wanna have you back on, and when I do, I don't know if I'm gonna use any of these other clips I mean, I just really told you, like, my real story here, and so it's not something that
That's
I
what we need to do more of. I think when it comes to content, um, sure, there's a bunch of different strategies on growth and everything, but I feel like everyone's too caught up in like, how do I grow as fast as possible? The main reason I use these apps is because I want to attract and connect with people that are like minded. And so I feel like the only way you can really do that is if we can really, like kind of take off the mask, forget that with everything's recording, and try to be as raw as possible, because I'm sure, there's 8 billion people, how many billion people? I'm sure there's people that are going through like the same struggles as us, who need that like brotherhood of people to to help grow with, that they can identify with, and want to socialize with, because just going out and about in your immediate area trying to find people that identify with us is going to be trying to find like a needle in a haystack, and we're just going to always get down because it's like, oh, I can't find anyone, I can't find anyone.
Yeah,
I still have yet to
maybe.
find people like you in person that I relate to. Like, I only have one close friend from high school, and and I sometimes hang out with his friends, but none of them identify with me. I only stick with my best friend because I've known him for 10 years. It's like a brother. I have yet to found like someone else in my circle, but I remain hopeful, and I think it's going to be a combination of meeting people online and like traveling to meet other people, because you can only meet so many people in your immediate area.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, man. Like, I was just in Utah last weekend for
Hunter Stein
Hunter Stein's calisthenics camp, and dude, it was great, man, to be out there
camp.
with
Whoa,
people
whoa, wait a
that.
second. What do you mean camp?
Yeah, it was so it's the control theory calisthenics camp that he's basically hosting. But yeah, it's a camp that they've put on out there. They just did their second one. So go to my YouTube channel. I just uploaded the behind the scenes footage. There was a little mini competition at the camp. We did a pull focused day. I would say there were about 15 to 20 people there. And we just went through, yeah, one arm pull ups, muscle ups, all these pull focused movements. But it was great to go out there. I don't regret like flying out there. There was um, tons of athletes that of just all skill levels, beginner to expert. But that kind of collective passion for calisthenics just like made it really really fun, and so I had a blast. But I would just say like that the point I'm making there is just like when you do find people that you share similar interests with, even if you think that your interest is very niche, um, it can be so fun and so powerful from a learning standpoint to actually share that with others. And calisthenics is very niche, and there are not a lot of people, certainly none on a daily basis, that I interact with who really care about calisthenics like I do. Or calisthenics in the way that I mean it, of like kind of static movements. You were actually one of the first accounts that I had seen in the calisthenics. Like when I started my account, you were
Mhm.
one of the accounts that I was following at that point very early on. And I saw that you were very involved kind of in the community. And I really liked your style. Like I try to maintain like really positive vibes in my content. And you just also seem to have like that really kind of like positive mindset all the time. Um, so that's kind of why I wanted to bring you on, man. But I just wanted to learn like more about your background in calisthenics. I know you've been in fitness for some time. I know you're a certified coach. I know you work at a gym as a personal trainer as well. So I want to dive into kind of all of that. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of take it any direction you want. But really, I guess the question here is kind of when did you start calisthenics and what got you involved?
Okay, well, let's start with the beginning of my fitness journey. It started at senior year in high school. So this is back in 2017. My friends, they were bringing me to the gym. It wasn't really popular back then, but I figured, why not? Let's do it. I was very skinny back then, and pretty much all I was doing was weightlifting, the classic, bodybuilding, split, bench, deadlift. Everything was focused on building size, because at least for me, I was already very athletic. Growing up, I played basketball, soccer. I did a little bit of track. I dabbled in parkour for a little bit of tumbling. That was cool. But my biggest thing was always just putting on size. And so I focused on that for a good 2 years. And I don't exactly remember what year COVID started was. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was February of 2020
February
when
2020.
was really when things hit. Yeah, I believe.
So it wasn't until then, so I guess from 2017 until 2020, I was doing the gym. I wasn't super consistent. But then when COVID hit, I could no longer hit the gym. And then at that same time, it's a couple years after high school, I'm in school studying computer science, and like everyone else, we got hit with this sudden transition, and we're just stuck at home studying. I was having a great time on campus. I was doing a work study program. I was loving my degree and everything, but learning at home, honestly, the way it hit me was I got depressed pretty quickly. I wasn't enjoying my classes anymore. I wasn't seeing my friends anymore, like everyone else. I'm sure this is a lot of people can relate to this. And so what I had to do was I just, back then I was a big gamer. So that didn't help, being stuck at home. So I was just gaming inside of my classes.
What games were you playing?
I was big into number one, Counter Strike. I was a sweat.
Okay.
I loved Counter Strike. I was an AWPer. Um, Overwatch a little bit, the other games, Elden Ring. I dabbled in others, but that was my main game. I was trying to get global. I was trying to get like S rank in ESEA, but
Wait, how
and
how old are you?
I'm 26.
26. Okay, I'm turning 26 in a few months, so we're we're around the same age, and I can relate to this a lot. I was kind of kicked out of school during COVID. We were all sent home very immediately. I lived in Boston and then was sent back to California, and immediately was like, yeah, I was heavy into video games as well. I was playing PUBG and and Apex Legends.
Those were cool too. I never got that much into Fortnite, but I remember playing a lot of PUBG. PUBG was fun.
Yeah, I love the battle royale style. Anyway, so okay, so COVID, you're gaming. Keep
Yeah,
keep,
so
keep going.
COVID, I was gaming, and honestly, it was a little bit of a I don't like to be dramatic. I like to keep it real. I honestly feel like it was a bit of a downward spiral because neglecting my classes, gaming more. I was a little bit of a I don't like to use the word pothead. It's a very negative word, but I was definitely a bit of that back then. And so the gym just went under the rug, and I was raised as a very like a very devout Christian. My family was very Christian, so I eventually just started going back to the Lord, and he was just putting in me that I need to find a positive outlet because the gaming, the smoking, it was too much. They developed into addictions, honestly, and so that's when I started. My friend, like 10 minutes from me, he had a like a basement gym, and so I just went hardcore into that. I started tracking all my calories, tracking all my weights. And since this was so long ago, I'm probably, dramatizing it a little bit, but I remember being like 130, 140. And then I think the time span was between 4 and 6 months. I jumped like 20 pounds.
Wow.
I put on size because I was just tracking everything. And
So wait, I wanna double click here. Like, how did you get so obsessed with that so quickly? Because a lot of people struggle with like tracking, right? That's a big thing is like to see results, you have to really track. I'm a big believer in like tracking your calories and macros on the diet side of things, certainly. And back then, if your goal was just to like build strength, I think that's great. But how did you go like, take us one layer deeper on, like, how you went from kind of downward spiral to, like, all of a sudden, like, super devoted to, like, friend's basement gym, like, tracking what you're doing, like, making crazy gains? Like, how did you do it?
I would say something that helps is I like to call it a superpower. I don't like to call it a disability. I have ADHD, and society tends to call it a disability. But I think, like anything in life, something can be negative or something can be positive. And so, something that I find people with ADHD, at least in my experience, when we have especially if you have passion for something, it's very easy to like hyper focus. Think of it we can very easily get into the flow state if we love something. And so it was a combination of that. I would just I'm very big into like self-learning. I did tons of research, so that's when I got into my fitness pal, track this, track that. I would get super big into making these fleshed out programs, and since I was going to my friend's home gym, and we're close, we're best friends. Uh, it was having that partner, when think about it, people, one of the biggest reason people get trainers is they need someone else to keep them accountable, So me and my friend, we kept each other accountable, and we would even train 11, 12 o'clock at night. And so that accountability mixed with that need for an outlet, like I really realized, like, hey, I gotta change things up. Like I'm not going anywhere positive. It really helped me just lock in and just get working, gain 20 pounds. And it
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
e- it
incredible.
wasn't fun though. It wasn't in the beginning. Tracking wasn't that fun, but after like 2 3 months, it's like if you stick to similar meals, and you just like, okay, I know how many calories is in that
Right.
and is in that. Yeah.
Right, you don't have to keep tracking once you kind of are eating the same things every day.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, no, that's a really awesome story and transition from kind of feeling like downward spiral, some like unhealthy habits involved in there too, and then really like making that transition and having the accountability of others around you that are pushing you in the right direction. And um that's really awesome, man. I've found that in my opinion too, like video games are just like it's just like watching Netflix or any other kind of instant gratification. um and not to say that it's bad, but I did feel like personally when I was playing video games, and especially with friends, it can be very addicting, and too much of it I think is can take away from other important things in life. But when I broke away from playing video games so much, actually, when you break away, you start to not really feel like it's like that. You don't need that dopamine hit anymore. And so you actually, once you find kind of a more meaningful like purpose and something you're working towards, all of a sudden, like that, like overwhelming urge to just like play for hours on end it does kind of like go away. So I think the video game conversation is kind of interesting because it's not like super talked about. But I think it is something that a lot of kind of athletes around our age have in common, is that experience. Um, Certainly during COVID as well. Like I almost had the exact really same kind of thing happen to me, but I got stuck in that place of just being kind of a slob, couch potato,
Hmm.
unhealthy behaviors for too long. But um, but anyway, so okay, so you were still really interested in weightlifting around that time and in COVID, and with your friends and tracking, and you gained some mass. So like, where did things go from there?
So from there, I missed a small piece of story was right before COVID hit. I also started working at a gym as a personal trainer. Crunch was the first gym I worked at, so I only got like 2 months experience coaching, and then it was kind of shut down. Gyms were shut down, and so then transitioning to calisthenics. Once Well, I guess before gyms opened up, at some point in time, I forget exactly when it was, but it was in that lockdown period. I'm just scrolling through YouTube, and then I stumble upon this light skinned guy, tons of tattoos, dark hair. His name's Chris Heria, and he was just doing muscle ups. I was like, "Whoa, what is that?" And then, the algorithm starts seeing you're watching this and that. The algorithm started feeding me a bunch of calisthenics. Then I stumble upon an individual named Tony Gaste. He is you're familiar. He's a world
Yeah,
champ
yeah, of course, best in the
and
world.
so
Yeah,
I saw that. I was like, I want to learn that. That looks amazing. And so, but before I got into it, I did a bunch of research, and I would say the biggest doubt I had about getting into the sport was the chance of injury, because you're essentially, I mean, muscle ups aside, I feel like static skills and like that are a little different. Freestyle is literally like trying to teach yourself gymnastics as an adult. So I was so worried that, oh,
right.
I'm going to pursue this path and I'm going to get hurt.
Hmm.
So I didn't let that stop me though. I kind of weighed the pros and cons. I'm like, I'm athletic. I could do this. And so I went from training 100% weights, and I probably did about switched it to about 30-70, a little bit of calisthenics. I'd start my workouts with banded muscle ups, and then I would throw in some weighted pull ups and then do my weight training. But my biggest challenge with the muscle up was, I back up here a little bit so the people that don't know
Yeah.
about it can get an idea, is instead of doing a clean muscle up, I would chicken wing, and I was doing that for a good, I don't know, 6-8 months. And so then I decided, like, hey, I got to switch something up. I want to get good at body weight skills. Let me go full send 100% calisthenics. And so I did a bunch of research, looked at a bunch of athletes, how they train, and I tried to combine my knowledge of coaching and bodybuilding, because by this time I already, got my certificate. I was training some of my friends, so I tried to combine that with what I saw with calisthenics, and slowly over time I started to progress. So I got the muscle up down, then I went into the handstand, and then I started. Once I had those two skills down, somewhat, because I learned them. I learned the handstand. My biggest regret was the banana back. That was very hard to unlearn. Then I got into freestyle very very slowly.
Okay. Yeah, I want to get into both. I mean, I think I want to ask you about handstand because, that's been a long journey for me. I mean, that is like, it's a funny skill because the more I'm on social media, I see a lot of beginners posting their journeys, day 26, whatever, and like already have got handstand, right? Or, then you have people like me where it really took like months to feel confident in. Um, and I still feel like it's an amazing feeling now to be where I'm at with handstand, just knowing just a few months ago, like where I was. But I think handstand's really an interesting skill because it requires both strength and balance. And learning it as an adult, I remember when I started and in my early days, if people could find my videos, I was like, oh, I'm making good progress on the handstand like 1 week in. I thought I was going to get it in like a matter of like a week or two. It ended up taking like really like more like 5 months to really feel like I got it. So, what do you think makes the handstand so difficult, and what was your experience with it?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I think what makes the handstand so difficult is that you're literally turning the whole world upside down. We have 100% experience walking on our feet, standing on our feet, balancing on our feet. So trying to do it on your hands is like trying to talk backwards.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, at least for us, we learn in our adult years where a lot of our motor patterns are very, very fixed. We have all these mental grooves, and trying to teach yourself something new can be a bit challenging. And so that's why I think it's so difficult. What was the other half of your question?
What was your experience with handstand, learning it?
Oh, I see. I see. So I would say what heavily tainted, or what influenced my journey with handstand was my experience in bodybuilding. The biggest thing that I've just up until recently started to shift is the whole philosophy or technique of training to failure. You always want to, at least when I was learning, it's always about hypertrophy, pushing to failure. But when you're learning the handstand, you want it, if you want to learn it the right way, you want it to be as easy as possible. And, I was always athletic. I wanted to get it quick. So it was also a bit of ignorance, lack of knowledge. I would go right into doing wall handstands. And I think it was within my first month or two doing all my wall handstands on my hands. One day I just, push into failure, hold it as long as I can, hurt the wrist, sharp pain, and that knocked me on the bench for a good 3-4 months. And it was depressing. I'm having all this fun training calisthenics, and you hurt your wrist. You can't do anything really.
Were you
So
warming up in front of your handstand practice?
I don't think I was warming up enough. But I probably was. Yeah, I was warming up, but not as much as I do now. And all the years I have, I respect warm up a lot more. But I think the biggest thing was I didn't realize how much of a limiting factor my wrists were. They were very very weak, and they were they weren't very mobile. So now I
Do
can do
you
it, but back then I could not, barely could.
yeah. Do you coach handstand at the gym you work at?
Most people at commercial gyms, they're not doing handstands.
They
So
don't care.
the last gym I was at, I'm not there anymore because of school, is Retro Fitness. I maybe coached, I was only there for a few months, 4 or 5 months. I maybe coached, I don't know, 40, 50 people. 4 people, 5 people did handstand. I showed more people muscle up. Not many people are into the handstand.
Yeah, that is so interesting.
At
I
least
mean,
in the
I
States.
yeah.
That's where I'm from. I'm from the New York. In
Mm.
New York, not many people are into calisthenics out here.
Yeah, it's interesting how calisthenics is still very yeah, it's still very niche. I mean, obviously you and I and our feeds and what we see online is like we're saturated in calisthenics. And so to us it appears like it's this blossoming fitness niche that is like, but the reality is you're right. It's I think when the normal person sees a handstand or last night, like I had a big meal. I ate a huge pork chop coming home from dinner. I just walked home and I was like, I saw a stop sign. I just ripped a quick human flag. Like nobody expects that. And so calisthenics, even in the gym where you have people that are already like fitness minded, you know what I mean? And you already have a cohort of people that you would expect would be more interested in learning that kind of stuff. But I still never really see people doing handstands in the gym really at all, which is super interesting. But okay, so from there, like I want to ask, do you consider yourself a freestyle um like within calisthenics, you are a freestyle athlete? Can you explain like what that means?
I s- I would always call myself a freestyle athlete, but recently I think about it more, and I mean this is up for debate, and I haven't decided. But on one side of this topic, you could consider anyone that trains the sport an athlete, but then you have others who would say unless you're competing, actively a part of like events and competitions in the sport, then you're not an athlete. Me myself, I would consider myself an athlete because maybe not right now. I'm not practicing it. I'm building myself back up to it. Um, but since I used to train it all the time, and my goal is to get back to it, I would consider myself a freestyle athlete. Yeah. If there
Yeah.
were
I
if there
I
were
think
lots of more competitions out here, I would 100% be competing.
yeah, I personally so I was more asking you like do you feel like your statics, dynamics, freestyle like within calisthenics where do you fit in and so it sounds like freestyle, but on the athlete point because that's an interesting point you just brought up is like when is it fair to call yourself an athlete? And I really think like there is no right answer other than like if you take what you're doing seriously and you have the mindset of actually like trying to get better. um I think that's personally like what's most important. I don't think you have to be a competitor to consider yourself an athlete. I think an athlete is more a series of habits and like kind of speaks to your mindset and your discipline and the rigor with which you bring to your training than it does um having competed, right? I don't think that that's like I would definitely consider you an athlete. I was more wondering, like what is freestyle? What does that mean?
If you ask athletes that compete in the sport, like if I'm sure if I would ask Tony or Daniel Lysons, they would say that type of training is freestyle, stuff on the high bar. Um, but I consider freestyle anything that is either on the high bar, dip bars, parallettes, combining different static and dynamic movements. So for beginners that can't do 360s, a freestyle on a high bar can just be like you swinging and doing 180s, chaining 180s together. Like that's where it starts. Um, and yeah, I agree 100% with what you said. Like just because let's say someone who never runs and they start running, they build themselves up from 1 mile to 10 miles. They're a runner. They've taught themselves how to run. They're conditioning themselves. They're being disciplined. Just because they haven't competed in a marathon doesn't mean they're not a runner. I agree with that
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Right. So what got you interested in the freestyle aspect? And then like when the way you just broke it down for people is like, so freestyle is really like combining statics and dynamic movements. So in like very layman's terms, statics are basically isometric holds where you are doing a performative skill that is just static, like the body's not really moving. Um, Versus dynamic skills are where the body is moving. So like swinging and doing 360s on the bars or whatever. Those would be considered dynamic moves, right? Um, so combining those, and I've seen your content, and you, I think, do a really good job, like, um, kind of making like that freestyle aspect seem very appealing. Because most people that I've talked to and everyone that I've brought on the podcast is really just focused on statics. And so you're the first person that I've brought onto the show that's actually kind of doing more of the dynamic stuff as well. So when you transition from weightlifting into calisthenics, long-winded question here, but
It's okay. It's
what
okay.
what made you like feel like you like the dynamic part of it as well and like moving on the bar, and your content today really shows that that's still your approach. So um like what got you interested in that and some of these freestyle flows?
I would say the biggest reason why it caught my eye and interested me is one because it looks very cool. Looks super duper cool, super dope. But the other aspect would have to be just it's like it's a part of my nature. You know, like growing up, my parents said I was jumping off walls. Um, I was talking to someone that was Asian. They're like, Tyler, you're the year of the bunny rabbit. So like you love jumping all around and this and that. And I used to love tumbling, parkour. And so freestyle calisthenics pretty much embodies all of that. And I'd say another aspect of it is that I really love challenges. And so when I was comparing, looking at the different types of calisthenics, um, I guess I'll shortly share for everyone that doesn't know. You mentioned already statics and dynamics. Those are the two, like those are the main skills you have when you're learning calisthenics. That could even incorporate like pull-ups and dips. Um, but you also have when at least when it comes to competing, you have endurance. So that can just be working on in a timed sequence, as many pull-ups as possible, as many dips as possible. Then you got weighted calisthenics, also known as street workout. Taking the same moves, dips, pull-ups, muscle-ups, adding weight to them. But then when I compare that with statics and skills, and then I compare it with freestyle, freestyle looks a lot more challenging and just like infinite. Like you can just keep on learning. It's to me, it's like a video game. It's like you got to learn all these combos in a video game. You can keep doing that with calisthenics, and
Yeah.
so it just seems that you can never get bored of it. Eventually, I'm sure down the road I could master front lever, back lever, handstands, but I feel like you can never master fully freestyle because people are always going to be coming out with new moves. So it'll never get boring. That's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to get into calisthenics is because I started getting bored of weightlifting. It was getting monotonous. I needed something to switch it up, something to light a fire in me to want to show up every day, even when I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the story for a lot of people. Certainly for me, I felt that kind of boredom setting in as well, and I like it totally feels like a video game progressing in calisthenics. But yeah, so maybe talk to us about like um, how do you get started as a beginner in calisthenics? That's a very broad question. How you can take that anywhere you want, but I'll channel you more into the dynamic side because I've asked this question to a lot of people on the show, but like I said, you're the first that's done a little bit more of the dynamic stuff, and so some of the stuff you're doing on the bar, right? Like kind of and again, like I'm not as versed in like the dynamic skills and what you call them, but when you kind of like moving around the bar like that, I think that can be a little intimidating for a beginner. So how did you approach some of the dynamic skills, and how do you recommend like a beginner get started there?
I would say that the most important thing a beginner needs to start, like even before you think about training, is you got to have it doesn't need to be super intense, but you need to have the desire and the passion to want to learn. Because especially if you don't know how to start, you're gonna have to, push yourself to want to train and to push yourself through the failure. Because when I was trying to learn all these moves in the beginning, there was tons of failure. And if you're not really that into it, you're gonna fail a little bit and you're gonna be like, eh. So you really first you gotta make the decision, like, do I really want to do this or not? So you gotta commit to it in a way. Um, the next part is going to be figuring out, like, what do you want to learn? When I was first learning, I didn't know what I wanted to learn. I mean, I wanted to learn 360s, but I don't know how to learn 360. So I was just pretty much, experimenting through trial and error. And what I used the most, have you ever been to Planet Fitness?
I don't know if I've ever actually worked out in one, but maybe once. But yeah, I know it very well, but I just don't know if I've ever actually trained there.
At Planet Fitness, besides all the machines and everything and the cardio equipment, they have a functional training room where they have essentially a jungle gym set up. And in the gym, most people should be aware of Smith machines. Smith machines is essentially a barbell that's attached to a machine, and you can adjust the height. So they had something on their jungle gym setup where you could take a dip bar. It has these two large handles, and then it has hooks on the end, and then you can put that at whatever height you want. And so since it wasn't a full-on dip bar, it had an opening. I would use that to the first move I taught myself was the front roll. I would jump on top of the bar and then roll down into it. That's the move where you're rolling around the bar, but you're kind of rolling forwards into it. And then once I got that down, I was like, okay, let's do this in reverse. So that's when I started looking up like tutorials and whatnot. And I found the pullover. That's what it's called. It's when you pull yourself up and over the bar. And it actually comes from gymnastics. Yeah. And so once I
Mm.
got those two down, I would pretty much just experiment with like trying to throw other moves in there, like the muscle up, like the L sit, transitioning, because essentially you're on one side of the bar. I was trying to transition on top of it. But after there, the next step would be, because those are already two big steps, front roll and pullover. I would say the pullover is a little harder. The front roll, essentially anyone can learn. You could just hop on a Smith machine and just roll down. It's more of a mental thing.
Yeah,
But the next,
yeah, I do the rollover when I'm like ripping muscle ups outside, and then when I just to finish it off, I'll just roll off the bar forward. But yeah, the pullover is a little bit harder because it requires some strength, and you got to get that bar up kind of high enough, otherwise you won't make it. Uh,
uh
so I ought to give that one another shot. But yeah, those are things that just like look like when you do them, you just look like you're more advanced, like in what you're doing. And people look at that and they're like, oh wow, this guy really knows what he's doing. Um, but yeah, I would love to incorporate a little bit more of that kind of stuff like on the bar in my own training. And like I would actually like to like learn a 360 at some point, and like also flipping like off the bar. I've seen you do that quite a bit.
fly
Uh,
away.
Fly away. Okay. See, these are
hmm
the names that I'm not familiar
There's a
with,
lot of
but
different names in different disciplines. Like other people in the parkour world call that a castaway.
oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really am I like your setup. And is that your backyard? In a lot of the reels that we see in a lot of your posts, you have like this big mat, and you have like a nice setup there.
That is actually my front yard. My front yard has a lot of space, and I chose that over the back. Everyone's like, "Oh, why wouldn't you put it in the back?" Since I'm doing all this stuff on the high bar, like there's just not enough clearance for me to, like, let's say I flip off and I fly, like I might land in my pool. So the front yard was the safest for me. But I
Maybe that
wanted
would be
to
kind of
add
cool.
landing in the pool.
That could be a video.
One more thing I wanted to add, for learning freestyle, and honestly for learning anything in calisthenics, the biggest thing everyone needs is a coach. And I don't say this in like a promo type of way. I say it in a like a legitimate type of way. When I was learning these skills, I didn't have a coach. So I had to be my own coach. And so I don't have four pairs of eyes. I can't see myself when I train. So I would take my phone, I would grab something, a kettlebell, and just prop my phone up on it. And then I'd record the exercise, I'd analyze it, see what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. And if it's a new skill like a pullover, I would compare it with someone that's doing it properly. And I would try to mimic that. And so that's the biggest thing you can do for teaching yourself simple movements. But when it comes to more advanced movements, you definitely want to look up tutorials. But if there are none, y- that's where a little bit of creativity needs to come in. You need to analyze the movement and try to break it down into bite-sized pieces. So with the 360, the first thing I thought was, okay, I gotta learn how to swing. Okay, I gotta turn it, I gotta chop it in half, do a 180.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree that one thing I found interesting as a calisthenics beginner myself, because it wasn't that long ago, and I just remember I struggled with actually like the muscle mind connection, because like you see the skill, you can see a picture of it, you can watch other people do it, but when you go to try it yourself, you're actually feeling like what's engaging and what's not. And you have a lot of questions about like, am I doing this the right way, right? Obviously. Um, but I did have breakthroughs when I started to like reframe. Like I remember when I had certain breakthroughs on like something like handstand, for example, I would never activate my hips. I would never engage my core. And so like I I always knew that that was an important part of the equation, but I actually never actually did it because I just always it just never, the muscle mind connection never clicked. And so it's interesting when you're trying to teach your body, especially as an adult, right? Like you brought this up, like teaching kind of an old dog new tricks almost.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
it's not easy. And it definitely um it can break you down, and it's it can make you want to quit easily because like you said, you really have to commit. Like if you don't commit early on, then like you're probably just gonna throw in the towel. Because a lot of these things you're not gonna get on the first try. Except front roll, you could probably get on the first try.
Hey, two things
um
I wanna add to that, before we,
mhm.
like, pivot. The train of thought, did it just leave? No, 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 it's there. This is more on the calisthenics, but sure, there's all these skills you learn, that the I feel like that's on the surface. That's like the tip of the iceberg. Besides, like what calisthenics is, the biggest thing, at least if you have a passion for it, the biggest thing calisthenics has taught me is like it transforms you. Like you have to learn how to overcome adversity. You got to learn how to be consistent. You got to learn how to be disciplined. You got to learn to be your own motivator. And just all these different aspects of like self-improvement. I feel like calisthenics is like a vehicle for that, because if you don't learn these things, like it even teaches you to be like humble. You got to take a step back and be like, oh, that's too hard for me, I got to switch it up, or I'm going to hurt myself. um all these things you slowly learn over time, and besides building up your strength, it can build you up as a person. Like I would say the one of the biggest things I learned was, I mean, one of many, right? Is when going through different injuries where, you know, let's say your whole life is your job working as an accountant. You love it. But then you get fired. You got to learn how to find something else because you no longer can do that. And so that happened with me with calisthenics several times. Did I get an injury? And then you get very down and depressed. And then in the beginning, you want to fight through it, but then you get hurt more. So then you really get humbled. Okay, 6, 8 months, I can't do anything. Um, and so yeah, you really learn how to try to find the positive within the negative.
Totally.
And was it
Yeah.
that was one portion of it. I forgot the other portion. I'm sure
Well,
it'll
I
come
was just
back.
gonna say too, like social media is a really interesting part to play here, because I was realizing in my own mind, I I always struggle with taking rest days because I love to train. I love to, I think a lot of people struggle with this. They overtrain because they think more is better. That's like the classic like your mind thinks like that doing more will solve like more problems. But obviously a lot of times less is more. And that can be hard to kind of wrap your mind around. But social media makes it so it's like everything you scroll on, if you're like in calisthenics, it's like, oh, it's someone doing something crazy, someone doing something crazy. And so like it gets into your head where it's like, I need to get to that point, or like, right, if you actually have that mindset like me, like where you want to be the best, and you're not there yet, it just is this constant like kind of someone pushing on my back, like to go train more, go do more. And so I've struggled with overtraining, and like I'm actually struggling right now with climber's elbow, and I've had to
Ooh. Wait, where
yeah.
is it? Where is it? Is the pain on the
So
inside of the bicep?
climber's elbow is pain on the inside of the elbow.
In the
So
middle?
right here on the inside of the elbow. Yeah, it feels it can be it can be caused by like an over like kind of jerkiness on pulling motions. So I really think that it was a combination of two things, which is human flag, actually, my top arm pulling on the bar,
Mm-hmm.
and but mostly front lever. So I'm training for front lever pull-ups, and so with front lever pull-ups, I'm training a pretty heavy progression, and so some of that pulling I think was maybe a little bit too jerky and inflamed my elbow, but and so yeah, I'm dealing with that right now where like yesterday in my program, I should have been doing a lot of pull stuff, but I literally did zero because I could already tell that it was going to be a huge mistake if I did. So, that's exactly hitting on the point that you're talking about where like calisthenics, it teaches you like you can't, and it's your body. It's you, there's no one to get upset with. There's no like way to circumvent this process. Like it's just it's it just is what it is. It teaches you patience. It teaches you discipline. So, so yeah. But I don't know if you picked up on that other thread of thought that you were going to touch on
No,
or
that's
wanted.
okay. I picked up on another one. That's okay.
Okay,
So
great.
I'm relating to the same thing you're going through. When this was about, we're in September now. This was a little more over a year ago. I was working at Equinox, and so when Equinox is a very competitive. It's like for everyone that hasn't heard of it, it's like a I may say this in a good way. Planet Fitness, $10 membership. It's kind of like a lower echelon gym, a very beginner friendly gym. Equinox, the membership is like it's like 150. So it's people that go there, they have a lot of money. So they
400 here in San Francisco, just by the way.
400.
400 a month. Yeah.
Wow,
Oh
crazy.
yeah. It,
And so
it's ridiculous. Anyway,
I
yeah,
know
sorry,
it
continue.
is. It is. So they have a big they're like an established brand. They're seen as like the upper echelon gym, like luxury gym. But another aspect of it is that it's um like personal training. They're seen as like they have the best trainers. And so when I started working there, I've realized it's a very competitive environment. And so you want to take every bone you can get. So I'm taking clients at 6 a.m. I'm taking clients at 9 p.m. and I'm getting 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep. So very low recovery. But at the same time, since you're well, at the same time, I was training for competitions. So I was I was overtraining, under recovering, and on top of that, since you're in the gym environment where you want to prospect, you want to impress people, you want to catch people's attention, they had rings right in the middle of the gym floor. I was doing I was doing skills left and right without warm up, so I slowly developed golfer's elbow. It's essentially the same type of injury as climber's elbow, but it's more so on the inside of the elbow, and I had to learn
I think it's the same
to
thing. Are they different?
you have golfer's elbow, which is on the inside, the medial epicondyle. You also have tennis elbow on the outside.
Mm.
And then I'm hearing from you, which is brand new, climber's elbow on the inside. They're all the same type of injury. It's an overuse injury. Think of it like a rope. When a rope is nice and strong, it's fine. But if you start like cutting it, it starts getting frayed. And so these are just different variations of different tendons that have been frayed because of different muscles being used. Um, and so it got to the point where I couldn't hang without like a 8 out of 10 sharp pain in the elbow. But we still have that fire to train. So I was training anyway, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And what I had to do, and this even relates to people that don't have injury. If you want to learn calisthenic skills, we tend to want to work the skill, like the challenging part, but what's going to give you the best bang for buck is kind of reversing it. There's this ideology called RPE. It means rated perception of exertion. So 1 is easy, 10 is hard. Gymnasts adopt this into their training. They structure their workout skills, technique, strength, but going from the top to the bottom, when they're working on their skills, they make the stuff easy because they train on a daily basis. So since they train on a very low RPE, they don't get sore every day. And so their body can slowly adapt to the skills as they very slowly make it harder.
Mm.
And so the same thing you need to, everyone should apply to their training. If you want to learn the front lever or the L sit, what I see so many people do, day 1 of 30, learn the L sit. I'm going to do the L sit. And I'm only going to hold it for 1 second. And I'm going to do that every day. And then at the end, I see a lot of people, well, everyone's different. But I see some people, I feel bad. They only get like 3 seconds. And that's because, you didn't break it down to something super easy. And so it's the same thing for you, brother. At least what I did in the beginning was finding movements that target this that are super easy. So for me, it was banded curls. Then I started doing like dumbbell curls, but there was no pull-ups in there. There was no pull-ups. It was rows, a lot of body weight rows that were easy. And now we're like 8-12 months later. I can now, like I just hit a PR yesterday, 3 sets of body weight pull-ups with no pain. Yes, I could do muscle ups, but the tendon's not ready for that. I'm just getting up to the point where I could do like explosive rows, and let alone freestyle. You haven't seen freestyle flows because yes, I can do them, but the tendon is not. It's almost there for that explosive-ness.
So
So I
that
did say a
that
lot there, but
yeah, no worries. That you had that injury how long ago, and you're saying it took how long to recover? 8. I mean, you said 3. You just did 3 sets of body weight pull-ups,
10
and
reps,
that's
no pain, pain free. That's the win right there. Because a week ago there
okay.
was like a
Okay,
slight pain, but this injury. Let's see, we're in 2025. I started working at Equinox in 20 at the I think it was the end of 2023 because I was there for a year. I left at the end of 2024. So it's essentially been a little bit more than a year. But the biggest reason it took so long because I didn't respect the recovery process or the rehab process. I was skipping way too many levels.
yeah. I
Um
really hope that doesn't
yeah.
happen to me in my elbow and needing to that long to recover. But
If you
certainly,
do it right, it doesn't need to. If you do it right.
yeah,
Slow is the
right.
key.
Yeah, I was asking ChatGPT what the fastest ways to recover are, and it basically said rest and ice it for 10 to 15 minutes a few times a day, and whatever.
Wait.
I
Hold that thought. I'm grabbing something that everyone
I don't have an
wait.
ice pack.
Well, no, that is the old methodology. ChatGPT has been trained on so much methodology, but the main methodology for dealing, even physical therapists do this, the professionals, is they use RICE: rest, ice, compression, exercise. That is unfortunately outdated. This book, this is not a promo. This book is amazing. It's taught me. It's called Overcoming Tendinitis, written
I
by the
need that.
same guy, that did Overcoming Gravity. It's essentially like how to learn gymnastics on your own. Um, and it teaches you essentially that rest isn't doing much for your tendon. You do need to rest it from the movements that exacerbate it, that make it worse. But it's all about essentially building strength from the ground up with exercise. Ice doesn't the resting and the icing. It helps to cure the pain a little bit, but it won't really help you get back to that level of strength compared to the strategies in here. Slowly building strength. There are a few different strategies in here, depending on what you're rehabbing. Because tendinopathy can be in the knees, the ankles, the shoulders. But the strategy that worked for me was, you know, starting off very slow. Forearm curls, rotations, and here we are, pull-ups.
Yeah, I do some of that stuff for to warm up for my handstand push-ups, and for handstand I do a pretty prolonged warm up when I start my calisthenics stuff with a lot of rotations and banded work and things like that to get the rotator cuff and just certain things kind of primed. But that's I'm gonna buy that book right after this because um I I really want to understand tendonitis actually. And that injury in particular can be really, really tough, and it can take a while to recover from if you're like me and I guess don't know how to properly recover from it. So that's interesting. But I do want to pivot here and I guess like what made you kind of want to become a like NASM certified coach? Like, for people that don't know, like what is that? When did you decide to do it? Do you think that that has um like benefited you from a coaching perspective? Like,
Okay, okay. So, for those that don't know, NASM is stands for the National Academy of Sports Medicine. It is, the same way Apple is known for their iPhones. This is a company, a brand that's known for their certification programs. Um, and a certification program is basically a small course you take that teaches you the knowledge needed for that associated trade. So the first course that I took was called the NASM CPT. CPT just stands for Certified Personal Trainer. And so it's a small course meant to teach you the material that you need to, like the minimum information you need to be a personal trainer. It was a great foundation. It set me up with the confidence needed to start training. What really built me as a trainer, though, was more so the experience. There's When I started coaching, well, excuse me, after a bit of coaching experience, maybe like 1, 2 years, I met coaches that had more certs than me, but they didn't have like all the experience I had. Like they were like out of college, they had all these certs, and experience, at least in my opinion, experience outweighs certification. And I'm not saying that you can do away with knowledge and information. I'm going back to school now for exercise science because I've trained for like 6, 7 years with clients, and I feel like I've hit a plateau where I have all this experience. I need more of an understanding of the body, and so they're both essential. But
do you feel
I
like the
kind of lost
content
track.
in there actually translated to calisthenics at all?
You see me here struggling in my mind, but it did a little bit because it gave me structure on how to train. But the reason I was hesitant to kind of agree with that is because I've started to realize that there's a much better methodology than what they taught. And it's more so like the gymnastics programming style. But it definitely helped a lot with if I didn't have that knowledge, I wouldn't have known how to train calisthenics at all. I would have been like, I don't know how to structure my workouts, blah blah blah. 100%. I definitely
Okay.
recommend it. There's also, I think there's Ace. Um, I just chose NASM because it seems like the better one. They're both potato potato.
Yeah, I pretty much asked because I was thinking about potentially doing it myself. But um, I want to talk about the content creation too. When did you decide to start posting content, and then where did like when did you have the first idea to like, hey, I'm gonna start like posting this online? Like, and how long have you been doing it?
Testing my memory here, making me feel old. I think I started. I remember now that I remember. Sometimes I scroll all the way to the end of my content, and I see the my friend's home gym. So it was around. It was around COVID. It was a little before then because I have some
Okay.
videos of me and Crunch too. So that was like 2019. I started. Um, then I started seeing more and more
Wow. Okay. So
coaches
you've been
emerge. Start.
posting on.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll give you
Okay.
more.
So when did you get the? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead, please. I sorry. I think we are getting a little bit of a delay now.
um. Okay. Well, I forgot to check. What was your question?
So I was just asking about your content creation, but also, so it
Oh,
sounds like
that's
you've
right.
been doing that for some time. Um, when did you get the idea for Freestyle Flow? Did you come up with that, Freestyle Flow?
There's this guy named um, Paul Eight Upside Down, and he does videos where if you're familiar, yes, he just essentially he'll do
Yeah.
like a flow, and he'll just say level one, level two, and he uses like a catchphrase or something in the beginning or the end. Um, and so I try to make my own spin on that. Like, what can I say? And so I don't even think I came up with that line. I just did the flow, and then I landed down, and it just came out, and then it went viral. So I was like, okay, I guess I got to do this now.
Then it became a series, yeah.
Yeah, it became a series. But then it started messing with my elbow a little bit, so I kind of calmed down with it. Um, but one thing I wanted to add about the content creation journey. Well, one of the reasons I decided to do freestyle calisthenics is because I kind of looked ahead to the future. Um, you have tons of people in the gyms, you have tons of personal trainers. It can be intimidating on how to stand out, you know? It's tough to stand out with bodybuilding. You already have tons of those. So that's one of the reasons I chose freestyle calisthenics is because I wanted to set myself apart. But then again, thinking towards the future, thinking about COVID, I'm like, oh no, what if there's no gyms open? We got to learn how to do this online. Um, and so thinking about the type of content that would stick out online, freestyle, boom. That's gonna stick out. You know, there's tons of people doing handstand, tons of people doing muscle ups, but who's teaching freestyle? Only one of few. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's like a niche within a niche. And I like I said, you're the only person I've had on so far that does like that kind of freestyle approach. I feel like it incorporates a little bit more creativity because it's all about combos from the beginning, right? So we're stitching together calisthenics moves, we're stitching together dynamics and statics. Um, but there's also like really kind of no wrong direction to take it. And so in that sense, it seems just like a lot of fun. And I think people watch your videos and are just like, wow, this like looks like a really kind of a fun, um, like you do frame it as kind of like a beginner thing when some of your freestyle flows are a little bit more advanced. And I've seen comments on your videos like, yo, like what? Like
I'm in the
yeah,
hospital. I broke my neck.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
The best
Instructions
one
unclear, like
is
I'm in the
the best
hospital.
one that I love. The comment is how to draw a horse. The GIF.
Yeah, yeah.
Main reason I did
I've
that is
seen that.
because
And for
I
people
see
that don't
it.
know what we're talking about, it's basically a GIF that shows someone drawing a horse, very basic, like pencil, whatever. And then the final frame is like a masterpiece, like horse drawing, right? Which is basically making the joke that it's like you're showing easy steps, but then really in reality, like the end result is actually quite difficult. Um,
Should I start putting a disclaimer up there like this is not beginner friendly? I don't want people to think it's beginner friendly, but at the same time, I do that so that it can grab your attention, you know? The
right,
main
right.
goal
I think
behind it is to inspire people like, hey, this is what freestyle calisthenics is. This is what's possible. You need to start learning this because it's amazing.
so. I'm gonna say something controversial here. I actually believe that the existing approach, I personally think that what you're doing is fine, like in terms of grabbing people's attention and making something seem maybe easier than it is. I don't think that people are actually going out there trying this stuff getting hurt. I actually think that it's probably more of a net positive, to be honest with you, in terms of getting people inspired and getting people like actually interested in trying this stuff. That's actually
Hmm.
what I think. And um,
I agree.
so I think if people are looking at that and genuinely like, like most people don't have a high bar in their front yard, first of all. But if people are racing to the gym to like try to do this like crazy move, I don't think that I don't think that that's happening. Just like I don't think I had I don't know if you're familiar with Matt. I had Matt McKee on a couple episodes ago, and he is really big into back flips and side flips, and so I guess those are dynamic movements now that I think about it. Um, but you know, he's done some tutorials and things that make maybe the backflip look a little bit easier than it is. Or like he posted a video where he's like, you can learn this in 10 minutes, right? So there's a lot of that going on where it's like, oh, you can do this really easily. And I do think that that point is true. Like some of this stuff actually is easier than people think. But then again, like I think content creators are exaggerating how easy some of this stuff is at the same time. So
I mean, that's
um
what everyone wants. Everyone wants the shortcut. A lot of people, if you tell someone the truth about how long it takes to learn a handstand, they're either going to be like, "Oh no, I could learn it quicker," or they're going to be turned off like, "Oh, it's going to take too long. I don't want to do that." So, you kind of, I kind of try to find the balance of trying to show people you can learn it easily, but at the same time trying to help them understand that it's going to take some time. Got to be patient if you don't
yeah.
want to get hurt.
So what is what is next on your journey, either from a content standpoint or like what I mean, I know you're just kind of facing injury. That sucks, obviously. But on your
No, it's okay.
calisthenics
It's a good thing.
roadmap, yeah, I guess it is. Come back stronger, right?
What is next? In terms of, I'll go with content first. Right now, since I'm in school, I'm taking all these classes. I am finding it hard to do what I used to do, where I would, record every day, and then and then create every day. That's out of the question. It's not really possible. And so what I'm trying to do now for the past week, I've been focusing on long form content. That's what's on the menu. I'm working on how to do the handstand push up. And the goal is to then, after I create that long form YouTube video, to then use that for short form content. So with like one piece of content, I can then make that last for like a week or two. So this way it's a lot easier. So that's the plan for content. The plan for my training is mainly right now. It's the whole focus is rehab. I'm focusing. I believe what's going to be the best strategy for me is getting my pull-ups up to like 4 sets, 15 reps, no pain, and then slowly incorporate light, explosive freestyle movements. Nothing like you see on the page, but more so focusing on weighted calisthenics. I gotta get that strength back that I used to have, but more so for the tendon. Like my body, my back, everything's ready to push weight, but I slowly got to condition the tendon for, weighted strength and explosiveness.
Can you give us a sneak peek into that handstand push-up video? How do you learn handstand push-up?
So I've split it up into several different chapters. The main chapter first being, you know, understanding what it is. So I broke it up into mobility. I broke it up into technique. That in itself has a bunch of different areas in itself. Strength, and then did I say balance? Balance, yeah, balance. I That's how I view it. First you got to be mobile enough to do a handstand in the wrist, the shoulders, the low back, and then you got to have the strength to do it. I mean that's in a layman's term. Once you have the balance and the strength, then you can start working on technique and what's required.
I ask because that's a big focus of mine right now is still handstand push-up, and I'm making
I saw you on the story the other day. I saw you. You
really
getting
good
some reps,
progress.
and you balanced it too.
Yeah. I'm working on. I think my biggest bottleneck is shoulder strength. I get so many comments of people telling me to be more straight and coming down diagonally. And it's kind of like, yeah, guys, like I know, but actually when you do that, it puts a
It's
lot
harder.
more strain on your shoulder. And so the
Mm-hmm.
banana back and people seeing that my form is not clean is actually just basically a lack of shoulder strength manifested because it's
Mm-hmm.
banana back and making it more kind of a straight up and down is actually less taxing. That's what I've realized. So yeah, would love to have clean form, but like I'm not strong enough. My core shoulder strength is good, but when I started training handstand push-up, I just was really realized all of the stabilizers in your shoulder that had never been moving like that before when I was doing weightlifting that were just very weak actually. And so there's a big disconnect between like, yeah, I can dumbbell overhead press like, plenty, right? To do
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
more than most. But my stabilizers in my shoulder were just not there. So that's kind of what my experience has been. Um, any thoughts there
Any thoughts there in terms of like what you
in
need?
terms of anything I just said? I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, the main thing I was talking about is thinking. It's very easy to sit behind the keyboard, see someone with a banana back. Oh, you're not doing it right. You need to straighten
Yeah.
out your back when they have no clue what's going on. Like you're on your wrist. You got to think about 100 different things when you're doing the handstand. And you're 100% spot on. Even me, like if I don't really focus on doing my handstand pushup with a straight back, the body naturally wants to make it easier, wants to take the path of least resistance. And something I'm learning more recently, listening to a lot of content creators, is that yes, you want to learn everything with good form. You want to do easy skills, but as you progress, like especially like on planche, it's okay to have a little bit of sloppy form as long as you're trying. Over time you'll keep on shaping out that sculpture and making that form better slowly over time. As long
100%.
as
I
the
love that
effort is
analogy
there.
too.
Yeah.
Are you training planche?
No, 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 no planche. The whole focus right now is I've broken it into two skills. I'm focusing on getting my handstand back with no pain, and the goal being muscle up. But right now it's mainly pull up,
Okay.
no
Are
pain. Yeah.
you are you ever are we ever gonna see Tyler Calisthenics competing?
100%. It used to be my biggest goal to be the best freestyle athlete in the world. But after all these setbacks, after more of like, I guess just growing up, I'm 26, the brain fully develops. I realized that there you need to sacrifice a lot and you need to do a lot to be the best athlete in the world. I think what's more so more suited to my path and everything on my plate is being one of the best coaches for calisthenics.
Okay, I like that
Yes.
direction. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's when you're young and you're getting into it and it's really easy to kind of take on the world and feel like you want to be the best at something and I think like I encourage that 100%. Like I think having that ambition is always going to be healthy. It's always going to push you forward. It can get you into trouble, but I think it's good, you know. But it's also good to realize that like that doesn't need to be like your goal in calisthenics, right? You don't need to feel like you want to be the best in the world at something to feel like you still have your place in the sport and be like, "Hey, I want to learn handstand and muscle up and like that's what I want to learn. I want to get really good at those two things. And that's what I'm in calisthenics for." Like, that's a perfectly valid approach that should be
Mhm.
encouraged. My only thing is that I think that those people, once they achieve their goal, the goalpost moves. And so they'll say, oh, yeah, now I just want to learn this. Now I just want to learn this. And I've talked to so many people where that's been their experience. And I kind of have just already accepted that that's going to happen to me. And so I have immediate goals on my plate right now,
Mhm.
but I already know that like I'm going to just keep going until until I master everything.
Earlier, you said that, you open up Instagram and you see all these guys doing these crazy skills, and it feels like it pushes you like you need to do more and more and more. And I feel like there's a bit of I like to use the word inflation. Maybe it doesn't embody this perfectly, but this applies for anything. Like almost everything you see, well, not everything, but I would think a majority of what you see on Instagram is people's highlight reels. And so, the more flashy of calisthenics skills you're doing, the more sports cars and luxurious items you show, that's what you're going to be seeing more of because that's what catches more eyeballs. And if you get caught up in that, you're never going to feel like, what you're doing is enough. You really need to learn how to not get caught up in comparing yourself to, what people have financially or even just, calisthenics skill wise. You got to realize that, we're on two completely different journeys and I don't need to rush myself. I try to. I'm now with this injury. I'm trying to now enjoy the slow process, even though I want to get back to all the craziness. I get to enjoy being like what it is to be a beginner again, and enjoy the process of the boring skills. That was the hardest part of the rehab process for me at first. It was like I gotta do all these boring drills. I don't want to do banded rows and pull ups. I want to flip on the
Right.
bar, but I get to now appreciate like what the beginners have to go through again. It's like, oh wow, pull-ups are tough. Banded pull-ups are tough, you know? Gotta enjoy
Yeah.
the slow grind.
Yeah. Definitely injury will definitely give you crazy perspective on like how hard things are as a beginner.
What's next for Austin Cole, man? Because I see you're fighting silent battles too. First it's this page, then it's this page. I'm thinking to myself, bro isn't talking about controversial. He's not talking about I don't know how big censorship is. Mr. CK, he's not talking about the island. He's not talking about anything. He's just talking about calisthenics.
Yeah, it's been a difficult couple days. You know, Instagram was the main platform that I was on, you know, that's where my entire community lives. That's really where everything I was doing was. I am multi-platform, so people can find me in other places, but no, I mean it's been devastating. I woke up overnight, everything everything I built, everything I worked on, every
For
my
what?
account was just taken away for
They didn't
yeah,
tell
no,
you why?
basically um no reason. I mean, they say that I violated community guidelines around child exploitation and et cetera, et cetera. It really makes no sense and I mean their process is insane. It's literally they give you one shot to appeal. You don't get to write anything. You don't get to say your piece. You don't get to do anything. They do a quick identity check and they tell you, hey, if this appeal goes the wrong way for you, we're permanently disabling your account. And that's what happened. So my best guess is that Meta AI has flagged something on my account, and I'm not even sure if there's a human in the loop on this process whatsoever, but the appeal went the wrong way and they decided that they're going to permanently disable my account. Everything will be deleted. They let you download your content, whatever. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. So everything I was trying to build over the last 6 to 8 months on there has been just thrown away. I still am holding out hope that I can connect with someone at Meta to help me solve this problem and get everything back. I mean, it's not just my calisthenics account. The account for this podcast, my personal account, all of my accounts permanently suspended. All of them. One I've had since I was 13 years old. I'm
I saw your
blacklisted from the
YouTube, at
platform.
least. I saw the YouTube you got. You
I
worried
still have
about
YouTube.
that?
I mean, I'm talking specifically about Instagram. So I'm
Oh,
completely blacklisted off of Instagram for
damn.
no reason.
So you could just
Anyway,
make
I don't
another
want to, I
account.
don't, huh?
You could just make another account and they just do the same thing again. It's like you can't use
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, they found that they're all connected by the same, email or phone number or something, and they, for no reason, banned me from the platform. I mean, I
I will
literally am
I
making
will
calisthenics content. This is just
I'll keep you in my
ridiculous.
prayers because I could understand that the same thing happened to me. I would also be very let down, but the one piece of advice I could give you is that um being a content creator, besides, all the followers I gain, because that's the goal. We want to get the following, we want to use it to, help build a brand, build a business. But I realized that even if I mean it's different for me to say because I'm not in your shoes, I haven't felt the emotion, but for me, what I'm most grateful of is besides the connections, it's like the skills that I've learned. If my page were shut down, I would be upset I lost all the followers, but at least I've learned like how to make the content, how to film the videos, and you know, y- I don't see like the road's not over for you. You can still grow your YouTube. Maybe you get this appeal, then you can go back to Instagram. You know what I mean? At least you still have the skills and all the values that have been built along your
Yeah.
journey.
No, I'm
So
definitely trying to see the positives in it, and I was actually like, I'm, posting on TikTok or whatever for what it's worth, like, and one of the things I said on there was just like, yeah, if I had to choose between my account and my skills, obviously I would have kept the skills and lose the account. And so I'm
mhm.
still on my calisthenics journey. I'm not giving up. I'm still going on, doing what I'm doing. I'm still recording this podcast. Like I'm still in the game. I'm not taking my foot off the gas, but it is demoralizing definitely to have, hundreds of people that would stay tuned on my journey on a daily basis, and now they don't even know where I am or what's going on, and I can't communicate it with anyone. I can't post any story. I can't. I'm banned. Like I am banned. So I have this is as of right now. So if you're listening to this podcast later down the line, I hope to return to
You will
Instagram, but
return. You will.
I mean, I hope so. I need to contact somebody at Meta needs to help me because actually as of right now, if nothing changes, I won't return to the platform. So just that's just a fact of the matter. So I this is clearly a mistake and needs to be reversed, but like if a human doesn't get involved here, nothing will change. So anyway, I wanna in the interest of time, this is definitely going on a little bit long. I didn't expect it to talk about my what's going on
Okay,
with
it's
all
okay.
my accounts, but um, I mean, I know I want last question I want to ask you, but I had some other just questions about just like
I guess we're gonna have
some
to do a
kind of
part
dumb
two,
stuff
episode
that I
2.
yeah. We'll have to bring you back on for sure. So I'll just ask you one last question, which is, what is your kind of final message to people interested in calisthenics, and like, what do you want to be? Kind of, what is your legacy in calisthenics?
I would say, it's not that I don't think it's that appealing, but I believe, people should get into calisthenics, of course, for the skills, but you should get into it more so for the growth that it can give you. Like, if I never started calisthenics, I don't think I would have been, I still would have been a nerdy gamer that has no confidence and is afraid to go out into the world and like create my own reality, you know? And so, that's my message. Start calisthenics, of course, for the skills and the fun stuff, but really dedicate yourself to it for the person that it'll help you become 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. And most importantly, to make sure that you can succeed in calisthenics, you need to make sure you stay humble and just realize that slow and steady wins the race here. If you rush your skills, you increase the chance of injury. You skip those warm-ups, you might get hurt, and now you can't train for 3, 4 months, and then you get depressed, then you gain 30 pounds. So just be patient. And yeah, that's my message to the peoples.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you shared that you feel like calisthenics gave you confidence. And I actually wanted one of the other questions I wanted to ask you was where you feel like you would be right now if it had not been for calisthenics. And you kind of just answered that question because you just said you thought you'd be, still kind of a nerd gamer. And I think that's true for me too, to be quite honest. So, yeah, man, it was a great discussion. Really appreciate you coming on the show. We'll definitely have you back down the line when you're more recovered um, and competing down the line. So thanks again for coming on, man.
Wait till the spring. Wait till the spring.
Okay. Okay, great.
Thanks
All
you for
right,
having
thanks
me.
again.
It was a pleasure. We'll talk again soon. Good luck with your journey, the rest of your journey, brother. Training, social media, everything. Good luck. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me.